that's some good tea. Welcome back, guys, to another video, and in this video I'm keeping the dream alive and talking about a system that I've come to love over the years. I'm talking about Sega Dreamcast Memories, so let's go. Now, my introduction to the Sega Dreamcast is really interesting. I remember I was about 14 at the time, and the release date, I can still remember it to this day. It was 9/9/99. I thought that was so cool for a new console. But honestly, at that time, I was growing kind of stale of Sega. Now, maybe I was like many others, and I got tired of being bombarded by hardware after hardware. And unfortunately, the Sega Saturn didn't get the recognition in the American market as it did the Japanese. I mean, if you guys collect for the Saturn, then you know that some of the best games never came to the States. So, I was kind of done with Sega. I still loved the console and the companies, but I was done with it. And at that time, I got a PlayStation, and I started hearing about the PlayStation 2. So I was just like, I really like the PlayStation. The PlayStation's cool. It can play DVDs. So no-brainer. So I ended up getting the PlayStation 2. It wasn't until like 2005 when I found out the underrated console that is the Dreamcast. It's pretty much a console arcade. I mean, it's got some of the best arcade ports on it and has such great fighting games and shoot-'em-ups. And I remember I did play the Dreamcast a little bit. I played at some kiosks, and one of the other things that I didn't like about the Dreamcast when I first played it was the controller. The controller was so different. It was so weird. I mean, it fits in my hands better now, but back then I guess my hands were smaller, and I felt like I was playing with a football, and I thought it was really cool that you had the VMUs, so you can play like little saved games and stuff like that. And honestly, I haven't changed the battery in this thing for God knows how long, so it makes a terrible, terrible sound when I start my Dreamcast. But I played the classics. I played all the games that people have come to love about the Dreamcast, but there was one game that made me say, okay, I really, really like this Dreamcast. I really like this. And that was Power Stone. Power Stone was something that was totally different. I mean, this is around the time that, you know, you had Smash Brothers, but this was like a party fighting game before party fighting games. I remember the fact that you could hook up 4 controllers and everyone could just go all out and just beat the hell out of each other, and it had so much great animation, had so much great music. Capcom and Sega Dreamcast had a great relationship during that generation. There were so many great Capcom games that came out for that system. But honestly, I didn't get a Dreamcast until a couple of years ago. Honestly. The thing that made me want to get a Dreamcast was when I watched Happy Console Gamer, and I watched his video, The Dreamcast Rocks, and I'll have a link below to that video so you guys can watch it, because I've even told the guys, Robman and Johnny, I told them, I'm like, you guys are like great car salesmen, because I watched that video, and after watching that, I was like, I want to get a Dreamcast. And what was funny about that was I had just gotten out of a relationship, and I was like I was depressed, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of sad about it, and I remember I was thinking, I'm like, you know what, screw her, I'm gonna go out and buy myself a Dreamcast. So I went out and bought a Dreamcast, and another really funny thing about it is I bought the Dreamcast on Friday the 13th, on principle. I bought it because I was like, you know what, I want to buy a new console that just was down on its luck. So I went out and bought a Dreamcast, and man, that was just, the windows opened, and I experienced this era that I had neglected for so long. And what's really cool is there's actually still games being made for the Dreamcast, thanks to a lot of people that do homebrews. And one of the games I want to talk about was a game that came out in 2010 called Gunlord. It was put out by the NG dev team back in 2010, and wow, this is such a great game. It's got 9 levels, and it supports VGA. It supports the arcade sticks. It's a Metroidvania style Super Turrican game, and it's so much fun. And honestly, there's so many games that came out for the Dreamcast just over the years that it's fun to collect for it. And honestly, after all these years, I've accumulated a pretty good, humble collection of Dreamcasts. I mean, I'm not out there trying to get every single Dreamcast game ever made, but the games that I do get for it, I really enjoy. I know some of you guys are going to ask how I got these DVD cases. If you guys can look at those right there. Honestly, Dreamcast games, I find a lot of them out in the wild without any sort of boxes, or if I'm lucky, I'll find a manual for it. So I'm going to give you guys a link right here, down here, right there, called thecoverproject.net, where you guys can check out all these different labels that people make that's just ready to print. You print them out, you put them on DVD cases, and it looks awesome. What's great about putting them in a DVD is also, you know, I do have, you know, some of the manuals, and they just tuck away right there, and, you know, you just put them right there on your shelf, and they're good to go. So anyway, guys, that's just some of my memories of being introduced to the Sega Dreamcast. And why don't you guys leave a comment below? Tell me some of your favorite games on the Dreamcast, and maybe some memories of how you got introduced to the swan song of Sega's last console. I mean, honestly, this console was so well. I think that's the reason why a lot of Sega fans are still having that pipeline dream that Sega would go back into the console market. Who knows? But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.